Just want to hit record. Hello, GAWD. This is William Ash, and today I'm going to attempt again the same project that I did yesterday. But it's nice because I can at least show you where I got this to. So this is these are some dice that I made in Blender, and they're pretty low poly. These are each 8 verts each, and so I've duplicated those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and a little more than a game of Yahtzee. And if I animate it, just notice these dice look pretty nice. They would work in Unity or the like, and I actually was able to import them into Unity, and they look pretty good. So what I'm going to do in this tutorial video is I'm going to make these dice again, and I'm going to show you my workflow and all the details on how to do this. And this is basically how to make a low poly game asset suitable for a game engine use like Unity or Unreal. Okay, so I'm just going to close this, or yeah, I just close it. Okay, and open up a new window for Blender. So just show you the flash screen. Pull it up. Okay, so this die is going to be my goal is going to be under 30 vertices. Okay, so it's going to be super efficient. Okay, and I'm going to be using, I think, at least 2 different texture maps. I'm going to be using at least a diffuse map and a normal map. These are pretty standard things. I could add like a metalness map or a roughness map to it, but I'm just going to stick with diffuse and normals. Okay, these things are going to be pretty glossy. So here we are. So my first job is to make the low poly version of my game object. Now I could start with making a higher poly version of it, but what I find is that if I have my end result geometry in mind, it's going to help me be smarter about how I make my high poly geometry. And the reason why I got to do 2 different types of geometry is because I'm going to bake the textures from the high poly on to the low poly, and then it'll look essentially the same, but just maybe a little bit off. But it's a way of faking detail on a more efficient object. Okay, so tab right into it. And my first job is to apply a mirror modifier because dice are, even from left to right, so might as well use a mirror modifier. And actually, I'm going to apply this in 2 different axes because why not? So I'm just going to Control R, cut that way, Control R, cut that way. So I'm just right-clicking on the edge, Control R. It's a loop cut. Now I'm going to go and turn on transparent selection and vertex editing mode, and I'm going to select these, hit delete, and then I'm going to select these and hit delete. And now when I go add my modifier, mirror, and I'll just go like that. Now I can edit only one corner of this, and it should edit all of them. And eventually I will apply this modifier and then dissolve those middle edges because they're not useful edges right now. Okay. So when I've done this, I've tried just having a straight corner like here where you have the 3 faces coming together. And what I find is that that edge is too sharp. It doesn't look like a believable dice because in profile, dice are usually a lot more rounded. And you think about it, these are things that are in your hands. They need to be smooth. So having that sharp corner just ruins the effect essentially. So I'm going to have to add more geometry on those corners so that it looks better. And I'm going to accomplish that through the use of a bevel. Okay. And to make sure my bevel is uniform, actually, I'm going to even add one more loop cut because this bevel is like half the work, honestly. There we go. All right. So now if I get the bevel right here, it should make the whole cube look perfect. Okay. So I'm just going to select these 3 edges, and I'm going to do Control B. And that's the bevel tool. And then when I pull this in, it should bevel that edge. Now, if I want to roll my mouse wheel, it adds more edges there, but just one I think will do. Just like that. And if I go over to here and say smooth shading, that is pretty darn close. Honestly, I think I could use another edge loop here. I didn't want to because there's a lot of verts, but that looks too straight. So let's here. And after you've set the loop, it's a little annoying to work with these, but it's not impossible. Just pull this out and up a little bit. I got my reference in mind, okay? And then I'm going to take these and add Z0 like that, and that looks really good. I like it. Okay, I got my corner looking pretty good. From far away, you're going to be able to totally believe that. Okay, so this is the base of my mesh. Now I need to unwrap this because I'm going to be baking normal textures, or I'm going to be baking textures onto this. So I need to UV unwrap it. So it's basically a cube. I have this bevel, but I'm not really going to worry about the bevel. Okay. Oh, that's a mess. Let's fix that. That's something I think that when you initially bevel, Blender prevents the sorts of things from being uneven. Just to get a nice top-down perspective and just bring it into a good position. So looking at the diagonal line, I just want that to be even. So I'll grab these and go SX0, grab these and go SY0, and that should make it square. And a little bit more adjusting. Doesn't have to be perfect, but if I have the time, might as well, right? That looks good. Okay. So I'm gonna go and apply this modifier before I UV unwrap it because I want to see all my geometry. I want to know my vertex count, all that. So I'm just gonna hit let's apply clipping because sometimes these things aren't right. There we go. Here we go. It's good. Okay. Apply. Here's our shape. So we got a total of 58 verts, and that's a lot. And a lot of that is from the bevel. I can remove a lot of it now by dissolving this edge and this edge. So to do that, I get my brush tool by pressing C, and I just select these, and I go hit delete on my keyboard, and I say dissolve edge. I'm going to grab these, and I'm going to delete them, and say dissolve edge. And now I'm at 28 verts, so I'm getting closer. Okay, then I'm going to go and select these and do the same thing, delete, dissolve edges. So I'm at 24 verts, okay? And I think that looks pretty good for, a low poly die. It's 24 verts. The one I did yesterday was only 8, so this is triple. But that bevel cost me a lot of vertices. So it's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's worth it for the look. If I take these out, just Shift, Alt, click these, and if I delete that, then it gets me down to 16. So I'm thinking on 16 is good. Let's just keep it at 16. At least it's not a sharp corner. So yeah, 16 verts, that's gonna be fine. Okay, so now let's UV unwrap this thing finally, like I said I would. So you need to select the edges where you want the islands to split apart. I would like the islands to split apart here. So I'm just gonna select, there's the front view, there's front view. So I'm gonna select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's 7. And what this will do is it'll just kind of unfold like that, and it'll look like a cardboard box when you're breaking it down. We hit Mark Seam on my Shading UV tab, and then I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to press Unwrap, and then check out my UV editing window. Okay, so it looks a little crooked, and I'm wondering why it's crooked. I bet you it's my bevel angles. So before I get too far into this process, I do want to straighten these things up. So to straighten them up, you just select them and press the name of the axis you want to align it in terms of. So like I just selected these two, and then I'm going to say SX0, and that straightens it. And then I'm going to do that again here, SX0, and here, and here, and here, here. Okay, looking pretty good. Okay, now let's see if I unwrap it again, will it do the same thing and look crooked? Reset it, unwrap. Still a little crooked. I think I can straighten up these two, so let's do that. I think it's W. UVs align X. So I think it's just WX is what you put in the keyboard. Align X. I don't know why the shortcut's not working. I'm probably doing it wrong, but now lining these up isn't imperative, but I think it will help me make this look right. Might be wasting time, but let's see. Something went wrong when I did that bevel, which is unfortunate. Oops. Okay, so I just went through and straightened them all out. Okay. And my actual model, SX0, SY0, SX0, SY0. And in theory, all of this shouldn't have happened because I was using my mirror modifier, but sometimes you do something like, and then you have to go back and fix it. One of the advantages that like software like Maya has is there's like object history, and I can't tell you how many times in Blender I've really wished they had object history, because you could just go, I could have just gone back to when I did that initial thing. Let's just leave it. Okay, so that's close enough. It's UV unwrapped. I've aligned this so it looks pretty good. So now the next step here, it doesn't even really look like a square at this point. But it is. It's square. So my UVs ended up looking rectangular. Oh, that's because that's the edge. That's the face is not beveled. So it's the width is taken away from that big meaty face there. Okay, so let's go back to our default menu. And what I'm going to do now is name this cube below poly. And then I'm going to go into object mode and I'm going to shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel the transform. I'm going to call my duplicate in my low poly object high poly. Okay. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to apply a subdivision surface modifier, crank it up to 3. Oh. Okay, and obviously that looks weird. The way you fix that, I think, is you can either add creases or you can add supporting edge loops. So I'm going to try adding a crease and see what that looks like. I think if I add a crease to just the square sides, it'll kind of get me closer, and from there I will need to just decide how much in terms of edge loops I really want to add to this. And what's another thing that's important to understand is that I am not worried about my polygon count at this point because I am on a dedicated high poly object now. So I don't like how that looks. So I'm just going to get rid of those edges now. I don't think the crease is going to work. So I'm going to press N to select all that, press N to bring this up. And where it says edges data, I'm just going to clear out that crease. Never mind. Also, I'm going to get rid of those red lines. So I'm going to clear seam. So that didn't work. Let's try the edge loop option. So if I go in here and I just want more support, dragging it that way, I'll just maybe if I call these edges. Oh, there we go. That's what I needed. There we go. That looks really good. All right. I'm not pulling it all the way because I don't think anybody really is expecting it to be totally straight there. Okay. Also, I need to select everything and go smooth shading. And that looks like a really nice, smooth out die, actually. Like I would believe that any day. I am looking at the square faces, and I'm thinking if I inset a face, it might look better. So I'll just ES. Maybe like that. And what this is doing is it's just adding more polygons just to flatten that out. Because what you'd imagine is that when they manufacture things like this, they would make the sides really flat because that's when the machines are going to like mold and paint into them to get those dice to look pretty. So if I'm in orthogonal view, I should be able to grab these and go SC0. Yeah. And this is lining up those faces so that they're consistent, just so when you subdivide it, it looks even. And remember how we had the mirror modifier before? I think think I almost want to be using that, but I'm almost done doing it the hard way, so I'll just finish. Oops. The problem is you do one side of the cube and then do the other side of the cube and then it gets messed up. I think if you do this and shooting down both sides, it actually works. So as awkward as that was, my method worked. Okay, I'm going to crank this up even higher because if you look at that, I mean, it's still not even that bad. It's a lot of faces, but it's not going to be any kind of problem for me, honestly. Looks like I need to actually make these edges darker or more creased. So edge select mode. And just crank those all the way up because it looks like it needs to be. Okay, I don't like that. Let's maybe remove. Oh, yeah, that is unexpected. So it went in it because I extruded the face and then scaled it. It grabbed my crease data and it put it on those other sides. So just turn off that crease. And that bunching there is because of that corner and the way that that worked. Maybe if I take this off or turn it down to about 0.3, yeah. So let's just grab these three, grab them down to 0, and up to no. I like it. I like the bevel. It looks pretty good. I really don't like. I don't like how that's working out though. Let's. And this is what you do, right? If it doesn't look good, fix it, right? So that didn't look good, so I'm just going to take off the inset face. Fill that. Okay, I'm already happy I did that because that looked awful. So let's not do that. Let's just keep it where it was. And I think I need to rethink those edges because it kind of works, kind of doesn't. It kind of is a little off right there. Maybe if I add another edge loop. Nope. I can keep that one there though. Maybe I'll need it later. Nope. Let's take off the crease. Let's take off that. And let's think, maybe I need to be more careful about how I'm doing this. I just bring another edge loop right there and just scale it just a little bit, make it look round. And then I'm going to add edge loop here and edge loop here. I think I am going to go the route of using the modifier for mirroring. No questions yet? Okay. Let's see how it is. Mirror. X, Y, Z. Okay, so I'm basically where I started, but I have an extra edge loop. And I just wish I could apply a subdivide surface modifier and just crank it up. And let's see if that's what I want. You know, I think that's good. I think that is pretty much what I wanted. I am thinking almost like I want another edge loop on this edge here, like maybe that. And this edge looks a little sharp. Don't know if that is exactly what I want. But I think between the normal map and what I plan to do, it might be okay. It's like, let's try this. Here we go. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to do a little unorthodox things here because it automatically smooths out that corner, so it moved it there, and I'm just spacing it so that I can get a wider bevel on the corner there. I just want that corner to be blunt. So that looks really good, actually. All right, beautiful. So look how dense that is. It's great. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna apply both of these modifiers. Okay, so now I have a high poly dye object. Then I got my low poly dye object, and you see they're like smashing into each other. Okay, not hard thing to fix. Let's fix that now though. So I'll just select my low poly object and I'll just press S and I'll just bring it out. Or just say S 1.01, and it's still overlapping, so I'll do it again. S 1.01, and then now it's totally engulfed. Okay, so what I just did was I did S and then I typed in 1.01. That just makes it 1% bigger, and that's important because I just wanted to just do a little bit at a time, so I don't make it a lot bigger than it has to be. This is important because it's gonna help our normal map and textures and paint and stuff transfer over in a more accurate way. And now I'm going to do Control A to apply the scale, and that's an essential step because if you forget to do that, there's going to be like a weird deform between the two of them. It won't look right, so you have to apply that. So high poly's good, hide that again. All right, now what I want to do is sculpt into this the little dots on the cube. So if you remember how dice look, they have dots on them, obviously, but there's, if you've ever looked up close, if you look up close, you'll see there's a little bit of a scoop where the die actually has that color. So what I need to do is I need to sculpt into my high poly mesh so then I can color it, okay? And these are going to be white die, so they're going to have black dots. But I need to sculpt in the sides now. So to do that, I'm going to go into my high poly object, and I'm going to make my low poly not selectable. So I don't want it to show up anywhere at this point. And I'm going to go switch to sculpt mode. Now, if you've never done sculpting before, there's two main workflows that we use. There's multi-resolution and there's dynamic topology, and dynamic topology is the flow I'm going to use right now because I'm just trying to get a few details onto this mesh, and I'm not really worried about my mesh having uniform resolution or anything like that. It's just I just want to get the detail where I want it so I can bake it into a normal map. So I'm just going to use dynamic topology. So I'm just going to click here. It says vertex data detected, and that's just it's finding UV data probably. Just hit OK, and it's just understand that UV data is going to get thrown out the window when you use dynamic topology. And then I'm going to change this from relative detail to constant detail. That allows me to have a fine grained control over how big my brush is, or how big my triangles are that I'm sculpting into my object. So I'm going to change it to constant detail. I'm going to crank this up to 30. And if I use my number pad to go into a top-down perspective, I'm going to put my first dot on this die. So I'm going to go press 7 to go top-down, top ortho. I'm going to turn off my symmetry lock because I don't want this to double the power of what I do. Okay, and I have this set to half power. And I'm going to go right in the center here, try to line up my mouse with the axes. And then I'm going to hold control and click just a few times. And I did this yesterday, and the problem I had was I didn't go deep enough in. Okay, so make sure you're going pretty deep, and you want to look back. See, so that is not going to be the effect that I want. So I'm going to turn back on topology. Okay, 7. Let's make it even bigger. Maybe this big. Okay. Click in the middle, control, and then hold shift, and we'll give it a couple paths. What shift does is if you hold shift, it smooths it. Okay. So I'm making this pretty deep, and the reason why I'm making this deep is because I'm going to use a neural map, and I want it to be very clear that there's a dot there. So I'm going to go to the bottom cube.
Do I go numbering or?
I don't think your schedule has quite been changed, but you can ask if he's heard about it. You can go ask, see if Conrad's heard about it or something. Okay, so I'm just gonna. Oh, okay. Now that I'm on, I'm gonna explain what I'm doing. Okay, sorry. So that is one dot. Now the two sides add up to 7. So if I go to the bottom of the cube, I should have 6, right? And I am going to turn back on my mirror modifier, and I'm looking for x-axis, and I'm also looking for y-axis. And I need to probably turn that the x-axis off before I get to the middle dots. I'm just planning it out in my head real fast. So like that. And then there's going to be another one in the middle. Turn off X. Like that. That looks really good, actually. Then I'm going to press 1 to go on the right side. And I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a 2 or 3 on the right side of the cube, but I don't know if anyone's going to really notice. I do need to see. Okay, so they're going diagonal. The 2. So I'm just going to try to copy that. I'm going to go turn off the symmetry. Let's try going in the middle. Try more in the middle here. Does that look with my? Yeah, that looks close. Okay. And then on the other side of 2 should be 5. So control, if that's that, then control 1 gets me the opposite side. So I need 5 here. So I'm going to go 1. X symmetry, no, not X symmetry, we need Y symmetry and Z symmetry. Oops. So that looks like I need it to be in a little further. And it's not working right, so I'm thinking I know Z is what I want, but is it X? Yeah, still X symmetry. Okay. And turn these off. Okay, and now I'm going to press 3, which gives me right view. And so far, all we're missing, we got 1, 2, 5, 6. So we need 3 and then 4. Okay, So let's just make this 3. We're looking at my reference. Looks like I can go top, down. Sure, why not? So I'll go turn off all my symmetry and like this. That didn't work. That looks good. Okay. Does that look okay? Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right. All right, so that, my friends, looks pretty good. I'm gonna redo it though. Perfectionist. Looks like the dots were a little crooked and a little bit small. Let's just try it again. You know, that's okay. And then opposite side of 3 would be 4. So go to this side and then drop in 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm trying to see if they're lining up right, and I mean, it's not perfect. But just trying to just expand that a little bit. Looking pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to call that good for the sculpting part. Maybe that a little bit to be desired. So I'm just smoothing it slightly and then expanding it a little bit. Yeah, snake eyes. I think it's still not quite what I want. Maybe I need to make it even bigger. It's that fall off. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That'll work a little bit better. Okay. So next step is adding color. Okay, so I've experimented with doing your texture paint on the low poly or the high poly or whatever, and it's just not good practice, I think, to try to paint to try to move your normals without moving your diffuse at the same time. So I'm going to try to bake both of those one after another. I'm not going to try to paint the low poly after I apply the high poly normal map, because I found that you're trying to line up the diffuse colors with your normals, it just doesn't work. So next we got to set up texture painting on this cube. And the problem is with doing that there's no UV mapping right now. So I would have to do something sloppier. So no, let's just paint the low poly. So we'll just leave it at now. So let's get into baking the normal map now. Okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to go into compositing. And not compositing. Yes, it is compositing. I'm going to go and open up this so that I can add an outliner tool. And I want to unhide my low poly. And I'm going to get out of sculpt mode and go to object mode. And I'm going to select my low poly object. Make it selectable. There we go. Got my low poly selected. I need to make a nodes material. So I'm going to switch from Blender Renderer to Cycles. I'm going to say go here, and then I'm going to close the old material and make a new material. because there's different materials between cycles in Blender render. So depending on which one you're on, you might need to switch that option. So now I'm in cycles render. I made a new material. I'm going to call this material dice, even though it's plural as dice, but this is going to be the same material applied to all my dice that I generate. And look at that polycount. It's like 91,000 triangles for one dice, but we're going to turn that into 16 verts, remember, so it's not, you don't really have to worry about that. We're going to add a texture, image texture, like that, and I'm just going to make a new image, and I've learned my lesson about textures. Let's go 4096. 4K texture map is just kind of a standard thing right now, so I'm going to call this diffuse, not diffuse, first normals, and then I'm going to hit OK. Okay, so I'm going to have this selected, normal. Is it an important thing though? Or?
Doing protests out by the gazebo about transgender rights and do something.
Okay.
Everyone gets spread the word like.
Well, we're supposed to be in class at 25.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna go over here, and I'm going to show you this menu. Okay, so this is under render, the render tab, and it's at the bottom. It says bake. Okay, now this, the way it was explained in by Andrew Price, Blender Guru, the way he explained it is you basically do this on a material, you select an disconnected image texture node, and you plug in the image which you just created. It's probably a good idea to save that somewhere. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to make a new folder. It's the second time I'm doing this project, so I'm going to call it Dice2 and save that image. So you save that image out somewhere, because that's where you're going to write this. That's where you're holding your spot of memory for it. You got to tell nodes that you're going to write onto that image when you hit bake. So you have to select the image texture node, and then you have to select the image on there. You leave it disconnected. If you do connect it, it doesn't hurt anything. It'll just give you a warning, which is not a huge deal. But keep that disconnected. And then to get the normals from one object to the other, you're going to use this option that says selected to active. So first you change it from combined to normal, and then you leave this as tangent map because that's what the game engine wants. Your margin actually doesn't have to be 16. I found this creates artifacts if it's too high, especially it will, depending on where your seams are, it can be really bad. So I'm just going to set that at 0 for now. And then I'm going to hit selected active, and then I'm going to change the ray distance to something like a half or something. You can crank that all the way up to 1 if you want. I don't know if it hurts it. I think it's mainly something you adjust if you have like really tight little sections that you're baking normals on. So now that I have that set up in nodes, I think I'm ready to bake the sculpture onto my low poly. But just double checking to make sure everything is right, because if it's not right, it turns into a mess. So I got my low poly selected. I'm just going to press T. And under these tools, I'm just going to make sure it's set to smooth shading. See, it wasn't set on smooth shading. Good move, good move. And my high poly, I think, is smooth shading. I select that so the render is open. I know, but Job Corps, I don't know. It's not my policy to police that, but attendance does matter. I don't know.
I was just giving you a heads up.
Cool, thank you. Somebody already told me, so. I'm going to be basically, I'm not going to be able to do these recordings when people walk in here. It's annoying. But I can still give away these dice for free. So my students will get this game asset. I don't have to toss the video. So low poly. Okay, so now that I have that set up in nodes, I'm pretty sure I could try baking the normal. So let's do that. So I've got my high poly selected, shift, click my low poly, high poly, shift, click, low poly. That's set to clear out the old images. Fine. Okay, let's just hit bake and see what happens. Might take a second because it's a 4K map, but okay. So that nice bluey, kind of purpley, greeny color, that is our normal map, and actually that looks pretty awesome. Well, let's connect it now and see how well it disguises our low poly cube. So if I go add, vector, normal map, and I collect this to this, and here we go. So there's our low poly dice. And I don't know about y'all out there in the real world, but that's pretty cool. Actually, it really looks like there's depth to it. Okay. Oh, that is the high poly though. There we go. That's better. So there's our low poly cube. Now, obviously, the corners, okay, but they read a little better from farther away. And this is low poly, so that is pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the dark color to the faces. So to do that, I'm just going to add another texture slot. So I'm going to add texture, image texture like that. And I'm going to file image, save image. And I'm going to add a new image. I'm going to call this diffuse, also known as albedo, which is like our flat color. And connect that to here, and I'm going to select diffuse, and I'm going to go back to my default window, and I'm going to hide. Oh, do I need to hide the animator? Oh, I won't hide the animator. Eventually, we might toss these dice around. So I'm going to go and change this to texture paint mode, and I'm going to change this to material view. Make sure I select the diffuse slot here, and then I'm going to fill it with a off-white, yellowy kind of color, because these things were made of ivory at some point. And I clicked a couple times and then it just kind of froze. So with the 4K map and all of those polys, it kind of makes sense. There you go. So it looks like I got something in the way. I'll just move. Maybe I need to open up a different window. Let's go to UV editor. Oh, okay. So that actually worked, but where do my normals go? Compositing. That is really weird. Huh. So I've never seen that. That is really weird. I don't know. I know I'm supposed to fix that. I think some weird stuff going on with my node setup, maybe? What happens if we plug that into there, maybe? There we go. Weird. Okay. So I don't know what that was, but whatever it is, I just fixed it. Okay, so now I'm just going to apply some black coloring to the insides of those. So 7 to look down, I'm going to get my texture draw tool ready. I'm going to turn that off, crank that to 1, and try to just kind of do that. And I think I almost want it to be the color set inside, and that's just like a design choice, really. But I want to be able to see that little drop on the outside and then have it like, you know, see that depth of the hole. I need to disable selecting the high poly. There we go. Oh, wrong color selected. I forget that sometimes. So I'm holding control to access the black color. And it's just something I'm working on, so that's just why that's awkward right now. Not exactly totally comfortable with these tools yet myself. It's just like typical, you know, of Willy Mash, but I mean, if expect whenever you're learning something, you're gonna have time to get used to it, and I didn't like how that turned out. I'm just gonna try to a little bit straighter with the rest of that. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay. Remember, these are dice, so they're not going to be humongous in my game. They're just going to be, if I'm making a game, they're just going to be a small element, probably, like a supporting element. So this is like an asset that might be important, but not like an experience-defining thing, you know? Not like a character would be or something like that. So just think like if you're trying to conserve resources on screen and you want to run at a high frame rate, having things that are low poly but still fairly nice to look at, you know, that's the name of the game. Let's just, there we go. And this is like the perfect project for practicing your viewport manipulation, because with that numpad, you can access all 6 sides just using the numpad keys 1, 7, and 3, and using control, because when you hold control and you press 1, you get the other side of the cube that way. Okay, so that is that. If I just save this now, diffuse.png, then that is it. Now, just to review, I've made this low poly dice object in Blender, and then I've made both normal maps and UV maps. And what I would like to do now is just set up a quick animation to show you how these dice will look in movement. Because the reason why I use a normal map is so that light can then interact with it in a more realistic way. But if your lights are stationary, then you're not going to see it. So I'm looking at my object, and the next step would be probably changing the shader type, because right now the shader is a diffuse BSDF, and that's okay, but I want to add a principled shader, because then we get the correct Fresnel on the object, which just makes it look a lot more realistic. And the Fresnel is just the reflectivity on the edge of our objects, just on the edges of things where the light glances, it just looks better, or it just gets shinier. So I'm going to add that to that, and that to that, and then this to this. And there's our low poly looking dice object. And I'm just going to, I think, tip it on a little bit, and then I'm just going to have a camera animate. Well, That look good. I think that's more like something we'd want to look at in Unity actually. So I'm just going to scratch that plan. I'm just going to maybe click rendered and orbit and see what it looks like. You can't see it very well in here. Let's maybe add a HDRI image for lighting, because right now so that's kind of what it looks like. And I'm just going to turn up metallic a little bit. Oh, and that's another thing I could add. So in Unity, there's a slot for metalness, but if you don't have a texture file for that, it'll just be flat. So if I want this to be glossy or shiny in Unity, I just need to add a quick metal map to it. So to do that, I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to add, I'm going to call it metal. I'm going to hit enter, hit OK. And then I'm going to add a new image texture. Oops. Back to there, and disconnect you. And I'm going to select metal and color over to metallic, and then I'm going to change this to painting, and I'm going to select a gray color. So I'll start here by just cranking all up to 1, which gets me white, and then I'm just going to pull it down to, I don't know, maybe 20, something in the 20s, like kind of shiny but not like metal. And then I'm going to switch to a fill tool. I gotta redo that again, sorry. Like that, and then bring that down to 20 again. And then just click it. There we go. So this will make it a little bit shiny, but not like way glossy, which is good. So that's what I want. And save as image, save. So let's open up Unity and bring these dice in and just see how cool they look. So, Blender, it's really nice for rendering, but Unity's got that real-time engine. We want to see what it looks like there. So Unity 2018, here we go. I'm approaching an hour here, so I'm gonna have to stop. There we go. Unity just takes a while to load up. Okay, so before Unity actually loads all the way, I could go back here and delete everything from my scene except for the actual object I want to keep. So I'm going to delete the high poly. I don't need it anymore, as painful as that is. There we go. So all that's left is my low poly object. I'm going to go File, Export, FBX, and I'm going to call this dice. Export FBX, and now here I am. I'm going to go back to my scene view, and I already have my dice object from earlier. This was the one that I made yesterday, so you'll see that's what that looks like. And let us do the same thing. So I'm just going to create a folder right quick. Let's just bring in this, and then create a folder. I just want to keep this so that I can compare yesterday's work to today's work. And then I'm going to asset, import new asset. I'm going to bring in from my dice2 folder, I want this, and which is my view. Delete. Right. Put it in the folder. Okay, so I'll just try that again. Asset, import pack, insert new asset. Select all three of these, import. And yesterday I didn't try to do a metal map thing, so hopefully that adds some more realism to my object. I'm going to go and create my material first. So I'm going to go material, call that dice2. And then I'm going to select my albedo map, which is the same as my diffuse. So I'm going to it's this brighter colored one. Yeah. Yeah, and you can see it right there that it says asset / diffuse. So that's what I want. My metallic map is going to be this map. And my normal map is going to be right there. So here's this object, and if I apply it to that, or if I click here and I go click material, that, apply. So, I mean, I think the metal is a little too much. So I'm going to fix that. Metallic, metal, just say none. And I think, I mean, comparing these two dice, you definitely get more of a 3D effect from the normal map with that. And the bevel, I think, does look a little bit nicer, especially from farther away. On this metalness, I'm just going to try a smaller value. And then, yeah, that looks good. So, anyways, that is making a game-ready asset for Unity in Blender. We did normal map baking, we did diffuse baking, and now I have dice to use wherever I want. So, anyways, I'm gonna put this up on our class canvas and then maybe put something on YouTube. But anyways, thank you for watching. If you watching along with me, then you're awesome, and I appreciate it. Thank you.